Well, we are just over a week away before kids officially return to class, if I remember correctly. It's usually after the Labor Day weekend.
Yes.
And a lot of those situations do present an opportunity for anxiety, both for kids and for parents. To talk about that right now, we're joined by Tammy Shaman, who is a registered psychologist and play therapist.
Yes.
So I'm kind of curious. It's been a long time since I've gone back to school. I'm trying to remember, is anxiety a common occurrence for most kids when it comes back to school time?
I think so. About 1 in 8 kids suffers from anxiety in general. But I think with, having the summers off and all of a sudden they're transitioning back to school and, math class and their peers, and some kids are scared of, being with a new teacher. It's pretty common for kids to have some angst.
Okay, well, I'm kind of curious because you talk about getting excited as well, right? How are you capable, perhaps as a parent, to distinguish between your kid being excited, maybe a little bit nervous, versus proper anxiety? What are the telltale signs?
Well, truth be told, in the brain there isn't a lot of difference actually.
Okay,
so it's really the concept of how you frame the feeling that a child is having. So if you think of athletes before, say, a football game, they'll be in the locker room and they'll tell you they're getting amped up for the game, but neurologically that excitement is anxiety, but it's how it's framed. So that's one thing to think about too, is that some of that excitement is anxiety because it's a new situation, and so a big part of what we do is normalize that it's parents need to kind of relax about that and help their kids relax about that, because that's a normal part of the process.
Okay, well, let's talk about some of the ways that parents can do that. So, of course, obviously talking through the process is one way, but are there any kind of different, perhaps outside the box approaches that parents can take to maybe ease that anxiety?
I think one of the things that's really important for parents to understand is the biomechanics of anxiety, so then they can connect with their kids. So in order for kids to be receptive to move through the anxiety so they can cope with it, parents need to kind of meet them where they're at. So to understand that anxiety is an emotional experience in the brain, so that's what we call the limbic system of the brain, not the logical part of the brain, it's the emotional part. Parents need to be able to talk to them using that part of the brain. So when a parent minimalizes it to a child and says, it's no big deal, why are you worried about this? They may as well be speaking Latin to these kids. That's like you coming home from a hard day and your partner being like, what's the big deal? Why are you so upset? This should not be something you're upset about. You're not feeling good about that because they're not meeting you where you're at, which is an emotional response. So basically what we're asking parents to do is to connect with kids with the emotional side of the brain, which is the right hemisphere. So being logical isn't going to be helpful. So we want to meet kids where they're at by providing empathic statements. So being able to say, I see you're really nervous, I can see you're really scared. That's really normal to feel that way. That is the key so kids can hear the parent. Then they can help them calm down. And we also want to be able to help these kids get out of that fight or flight response, which is part of anxiety. It's protective. Anxiety is a normal emotion. And we need to teach kids that it's a normal thing, but for us to be able to problem solve, to move through it, maybe we need to tell that part of the brain to cool it a little bit. So there's some tricks to helping cool that part of the brain, so then maybe the logical part of the brain can kick in. And then we can problem solve and move forward from there.
I'm just kind of curious, perhaps in more extreme cases, obviously I think most of us can be talked off the ledge with this kind of, the phrasing that you're mentioning, but in some instances, if that doesn't work, what would be your suggestion to a parent who has a child with anxiety that isn't receptive to this?
Well, it depends if we're talking about teenagers or we're talking about young kids. So there's going to be
teenagers are angsty, and that's just what they are. But
well, one of the things we can do with children, let's say grade school children, like kids K to 6, one of the first things we need to do, and I don't care how extreme the anxiety is, we still need to get them out of fight or flight. Even if a child's having a panic attack or they're having mild anxiety. One of the things we do, and I know it's cliche, but deep breathing can help. Now, a lot of parents assume it's 10 breaths, do 10 deep breaths, and I'll tell you that's not gonna work. I'm not sure whoever came up with this.
It just seems like a nice round number is basically the gist of it, eh?
But it's not, because what the deep breathing is going to take 10 to 20 minutes.
Oh,
not
wow.
10 breaths.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm actually going to have you do something that I would
20
have.
minutes of deep breathing. Here we go. This is the best segment of your television in our history. No.
So what I want you to do is to put your arms behind your back.
Okay.
Okay, so what I have, and this works for teens, it works for adults, it works for 5-year-olds. What we have them do is this opens up the chest cavity 10 times. So what it's doing is it's going to allow the child or teen or adult to take deep breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth, but it's going to go all the way back down into your stomach, to your diaphragm.
Oh yeah, there's a ton
You feel that?
of oxygen right there. I'm
Right
actually
there.
becoming a little
Yeah,
lightheaded.
now if you close it off and feel the difference, now try and do deep breathing. That's
Yep,
different.
Definitely stands out.
Okay, and I have teens do this and they put their arms behind a chair. I've taught classes where I've had parents do this for an entire 10 minutes and they'll be yawning and I'm like, okay, so now you've kicked in, you're relaxed. So we do that and that actually sends a message up the spinal cord and deactivates that emotional brain, the limbic system. Kids can do that with a pinwheel. They can do deep breathing and it moves the pinwheel. They can lie on the ground with a cup on their stomach and watch the cup rise up and down. So that's deactivating
Game out
that.
of it, basically.
Right, or they put it, we say it's like belly breathing. We'll put a balloon under their shirt and say, watch the balloon go up and down. The chair works great for teens because they'll take it a little more seriously than putting a balloon under their shirt or a cup on their stomach. But that's going to be important because that works for panic attacks too. So kids are having panic attacks and even young kids can have panic attacks. So we need them to be doing some deep breathing to get them back online.
Okay.
Some other things that the younger kids, like elementary age kids can do is chances are that anxiety rests in either past experiences or there's anxiety about being separated from the parents now. They've been with mom and dad for 2 months. So one thing they can do is they can provide a transitional object. So let's say it's a piece of mom or dad's clothing, a picture of mom or dad, a teddy bear from home, something that they can even just hide in their pocket or in their backpack so they feel like...
Just kind of keep that connection at all times.
Yeah, I always tell parents it's like an imaginary string that they can keep with their child, and that will actually help ease anxiety quite a bit. And another thing I would say is sleep is so important as they get close to school, and we need to get them sleeping because that's going to help so much with managing their anxiety. Is sleep. That's for all of us. When we're really emotional, when we're sleep deprived, that's not going to help.
I'm running in about 5 hours right now, so I'm feeling particularly...
Do we need to do some more deep breathing?
There you go. Thank you so much, Tammy. We do appreciate that. If we had more time, we'd dive into what to do with parents because we know that they're going to be feeling a little bit anxious too. But certainly those tips will go a long way. Thanks so much for coming and sharing that insight.
Thank you.
We're going to take a little bit of a break right now. Don't go too far. More DT coming back at you in a couple minutes.